President Trump expressed strong willingness to acquire Greenland for USA. This has generated a great deal of resentment from Denmark and apparently a great part of Europe, which is a part of NATO. A great deal of diplomatic and some degree of economical problems appears inevitable. However, I believe USA should make best efforts to acquire Greenland. Here is why. I will not use much time on explaining obvious strategic reasons. Greenland is at the near center of Arctic trade routes between North America and Europe. This has great military and economic implications. However, you probably already heard all about this in TV news media and even TV dramas. However, think for a moment. The geopolitical, military importance of Greenland has been established for decades. Nothing about that has changed in the recent history. Greenland at the moment belongs to Denmark. Denmark is a part of our NATO ally, and Denmark has been providing Greenland for US military base use for quite a long time. And all has been well that way for many years. So why does USA need Greenland now? What has changed? That is the real foundational question. In my view, and perhaps President Trump's view, since I cannot read his mind, there is one critical change. It is that change that is driving the need for Greenland. Many would cry and argue, Greenland belongs to Denmark, which is our NATO ally. Why do we need to take over Greenland? However, this is the most critical problem. Is the foundational underlying assumption of this question true? Is European NATO members actually our allies, and will they remain so? In the Cold War era, NATO was a necessity. However, we are many decades into post-Soviet era. Do I believe Russia has ambition for power? Yes. However, does Russia have ambition to take over the world to spread communism? I do not believe so. While USA taxpayers were funding bulk of defense for Western Europe, while the French and Germany were busy spending their own money on deficit-run welfare programs, what did we as Americans get out of it? While we were footing the bill, Europeans were sneering at us about not having their pathetic free healthcare and government-guaranteed vacation programs. And rather than that buying us respect and influence over Europe, those Europeans just took everything we gave for granted and then formed their own economic bloc to compete against us. Anything we provide somehow became an entitlement, and somehow anything we want, it has to be a give and take. That was what was happening. This is why I supported Trump saying Europeans should pay their fair share for NATO and Trump's criticism towards NATO in his first term. However, at this point I question if we even need NATO. And here is the foundation of the problem. We spent all that money, made all that effort for NATO allies under the banner of the free world. However, let's ask ourselves, does the free world actually exist anymore? United Kingdom is arresting people for shouting, "We love bacon." Germany is rounding people up for arrest for offensive social media posts. Bulk of EU leaders appears to be collectivist globalists. The reality of the matter is that the so-called free world we were supposed to defend does not exist in Europe anymore. And from my observation of societies in history, we cannot save foreign rotten societies from themselves. After all we have poured into Europe, what we are getting in return is things like a tyrannical UK official threatening to arrest an American citizen for an expression made in US territory. Europeans are trying to censor American citizens. Are those rotten foreign societies worth defending? We need to see the reality for what it is. These countries are not our allies. I say we abandon the old rotten things and form a new alliance with societies that has some sense left. Under this new reality, USA needs to lessen reliance on international collective security strategy and strengthen our own independent power. There already is a US military base in Greenland. Probably Europe will give just about every right of Greenland to USA except for official territory claim. One thing that would put them in terror is USA saying we are going our own way and taking Greenland with it. It is not so much that US is exercising power in Greenland, it is more so that Trump's policy signifies that we are not going to be a provider anymore, and going further, anything will be a give-and-take relationship. There are no permanent allies, but US territory will be permanent. That is why we need Greenland.